that is going to be a very insightful one, and then we're going to have a lot to learn today. So, without wasting our time any further, we're just going to go straight to the business of the day. Um, I'm sure you must have seen in the flyer, we're looking at Microsoft Intune deep dive today, and we're going to be talking about Microsoft Intune. So let us brace up for that. So just before we begin, for the purpose of maybe those that do not know me or you're here for the first time, my name is Deji Omitola. I am a modern workplace solutions engineer and also a Microsoft certified trainer. Just a little bit of myself. Am an expert in Microsoft 365, specialized in Exchange Online, and also specialize in PowerShell scripting, Active Directory, and Microsoft Entra. I currently work with Asham Limited as a modern workplace solutions engineer, and I help organizations to deploy and manage their various infrastructures, particularly Microsoft infrastructure. So it is my pleasure to be the moderator for today's event. All right. And also, our speaker for today is no other person than Onoriode Eko. Um, Yet he is a cloud operations and security engineer with over 10 years of professional experience, with passion driven by continuous learning and improvement in managing and deployment of Microsoft solutions. He currently works with Reliance Infosystem. All right, can we please ensure our mics are muted so we do not, um, you know, disrupt the meeting? All right, thank you very much. Okay, so he currently works with Reliance Infosystem as a cloud solution architect, and where what he does is to deploy and manage modern workplace solutions for organizations. He's also a Microsoft certified trainer, so um, he's an expert in doing this, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to get a lot from him today. Mr. Onoriode Eko, it's a pleasure to have you in our midst. Thank you very much. Okay. And before we continue, just a few housekeeping rules. We're going to record this session. I'm sure the recording has already started. Please ensure your microphones are muted, like I just mentioned minutes ago, so that we do not, disrupt the class and we do not get other people distracted. And do well to pen down your questions onto the Q&A session. Right, there will be quick Q&A session after the class. So yeah, you can always note them down. And here's our social media handle where you can connect with us on Twitter. I think I'm supposed to change this to X. There is no more Twitter, so sorry about that. And then on LinkedIn, you can simply search us on LinkedIn, Nigeria M35 community. You will see us there. And also on YouTube, you simply type Microsoft Nigerian M35 community, and then you see us there. You can watch our previous videos and all of that. And yeah, if you want to drop a feedback, maybe you have a suggestion or what you think we can do better, you can always use this feedback link. I'm going to drop all of this in the chat before the end of today's session. All right, so I think that is all enough of my talking. I'm going to hand over to the speaker, who is going to be taking us on Microsoft Intune. Microsoft Intune is actually is one of the integral parts of Microsoft 365 that I really do appreciate and I really do like, because it helps us to ensure that our devices and applications are well managed. So I'm not going to talk again. I'm just going to hand over to Onoriode. Onoriode, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. So,
All right, good. Thank you very
yeah.
much. So yeah, you can have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Oladeji. Oladeji, I've already done the introduction. There's nothing much to say but to put a face to the name. So this is me, Onoriode Eko. As you have said, a modern work solution specialist at Reliance Info Systems. And in order to save most of our time, because Intune is usually very deep, and when we start talking about Intune, it may be so maybe some of us might get lost in the process, but as much as possible, I'll try to bring it down to the lowest credo so that even if you are new or it's a new term to you or the solution is new to you, you'll be carried along. And even if you have been in the system and you know how to deploy Intune and know a lot about Intune, you should also hear some new things that maybe you've not heard before. And like you said, there's um, area for correction and for your own input as this discussion goes on. So, Intune is the mobile device management solution from Microsoft. Um, Before now, um, organizations use what they call SCCM, which is called System Center Configuration to Control. So, center configuration manager. So, what that does is it helps to manage your Windows devices and servers in your on-premise environment, and you can use it to push updates to devices. You can also use it to push applications to devices and also to manage your server. But with with the modern workplace, things are changing. People no longer use their devices on the company's environment, meaning that they are not always connected to the Active Directory because the SCCM leverages on devices that are connected on a network and it will push those policies. But right now, most workforce, like 80%, 60%, or 90% of workforces, either they are working at home with the company's devices or they are working at home with their own personal devices. This is a scenario called BYOD, bring your own device, by using your own device to do companies engagement. So we are going to be looking at some discussions regarding Intune. And we are going to start with examining the modern work management. So I've just explained the scenario where people have been working their from the office with systems that are connected to the network. You don't even have to bring in your own device. Everything must be connected to the network before you can gain access to company information. But these days, because people can bring in their own laptop, they can bring in their own phones, their own iPad, their own Mac devices, they can access organization information anytime and anywhere they like. And one benefit of having that flexibility is that at any time you can always do add an input to your work. And if, for instance, you've closed your 9 to 5 and you're on your way from your mobile device, you can still make updates to documents that you were working on. So because of that, because there is modern management, everything has changed and we have to adapt to this modern work and modern management. So we're also going to examine the enterprise desktop lifecycle, what has happened so far from using desktop or systems that must be plugged to the network to using systems or computers that should not be on the network. You can have your own internet, you can be in your home and be working from the company. Then examining planning and purchasing. We're also going to look at desktop deployment, plan and application deployment, and plan for upgrade and retirement. Somebody may be asking himself or herself, where is all this coming from when we are supposed to be discussing Intune? But we need to start from the cradle up to getting the details of what Intune is and what it is not. So on the table you see, on the slide you can see here, there is what you call the traditional method, which is the old way people used to work before. And you can see an organization will plan for some PCs or laptops, they will purchase it. An IT guy will deploy the laptop and some operate it and give it to the user. The user operates, and after operation, within that period, you're also giving support to the user, and you have to upgrade that device using maybe your system center configuration manager, which is your SSM manager. Then when the device is old enough and it's no longer in use or something, you retire the device and stop using it. But when you come to the modern management, you see it's very easy to deploy and manage. A device can be bought for a user. It does not need to interface with the IT team to deploy and to do anything. The device can be sent directly to that user, and the user can just sign into his account and
Hello.
Hello, it's like we lost connection.
Yeah, I think his network is faffing. Let's give him a while. He should be back to us.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I'm sure he will be joining back very soon. Uh, oh, okay. I think it's back. Hello, Onoriode. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to know if Onoriode, our speaker, can actually hear me.
I'm not sure he's back.
Oh, all right.
Okay, while we
hello,
wait for
so sorry.
Noridi.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
all right,
sorry
great.
about that. Yeah, yeah, MTN decides to send me a message.
Mm.
All right, so let me share my screen back.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. So sorry about that. All right. So I was
I
talking
think you want
about
to reshare your video also. Except I'm the only one. I
Ah,
think
ah.
you want
yes.
to reshare your video.
And
Yeah.
your
You do
screen.
are you enjoying the view of my face?
I think you should just leave being audio
And
because to save his
share your
bandwidth. Yeah,
screen again.
just share your screen.
Yeah,
Save
yeah.
your bandwidth.
I think the video. Okay, let's go. I if it doesn't. Okay. All right. So I was talking about how can you see my screen now? Let me
No,
confirm
not
that.
yet for me.
No,
Not
no.
yet. Not yet.
Oh,
I
okay.
think you need to
Let
reshare.
me share. Let me share again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to get a slide. All right. Please let me know if you can see it.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I
All right, great. All right. So I was talking about the pillars of modern management and how someone can just get a brand new device and sign into the device without having to interface with the IT team. And I was saying that that is what is called the autopilot, which is a feature in Intune that allows you to auto configure devices. It can be auto configured right from the manufacturer end, or you can get it as the admin, get the device IDs of those device and set it up. So immediately the user signs in to that device. The device gets registered in Intune and the required apps are deployed to that device. You know, the fun thing about that is that the device can also be added to um, Active Directory on-prem and also managed from Active Directory on-prem. You can see that under pillars, the pillars of modern management, your devices are always up to date because you can deploy policies that can push updates to your devices. Then there's intelligent security that is built in, very intelligent in the fact that you can configure what you call compliance policies and configuration profiles to push application and configurations to your devices. And there's also a proactive insights where you can see information about your devices and advise and get advice on what to do to remediate any issue that comes up on your devices. Now, we can't talk about Intune without talking about Entra ID, and which is formerly Azure Active Directory, because Entra ID is more like the base or the foundation on which Intune stands. Because for you to onboard a device to Intune, it has to also go to your Entra ID, either as a registered device or an Entra ID joint device or hybrid Entra ID joint device. So we are going to be looking at Azure Active Directory for the Entra ID, which is formerly Azure Active Directory. We're also going to compare your Entra ID with your Active Directory that is on premise. And we're also going to look at Entra ID as directory service for cloud app. Then we're also going to talk about the Entra ID plans, which is the plan 1 and the plan 2. And also Entra ID, we are also going to do a thorough examination of that. Now, the Entra ID, it operates in the cloud as a platform as a service, where instead of you having an on-premise Active Directory, just like you can see here, you already have a an Active Directory that is on the cloud, and you can just add your users. You don't know how the Active Directory is being monitored or taken care of. You're only just to pay for the service, and you are managing your users right from the cloud. So if you look at this diagram here, you are going to see that you can have your Entra ID linked to your on-premise Active Directory, maybe by using your AD Connect or your Cloud Sync, and use it to access your cloud services. Now, some of the things you can use your Entra ID to do are listed here. I'm not going to mention all of them, but the most important is that you can use it to provision your users, you can use it to provision your devices, you can assign roles to users to be able to do specific tasks on your organization. So you can use it to access and set up enterprise applications for scenarios where you want your users to be able to access your applications from anywhere. But before now, the applications are being accessed only when your users come to the office or when there is a VPN that is turned on. So these are the list of what Entra ID can do. Now, comparing the Entra ID with your normal Active Directory that is on-premise, you see a list of things that you can do on your Active Directory on-premise, like configuring your GPO, the way you sign into it using LDAP, and then using Kerberos authentication, and it also uses DNS for locating resources such as other domain controller. But when it comes to your Entra ID, you can see that it's primarily an identity solution and it's internet based. And there's nothing like your OUs or GPUs on Entra ID. Rather, you have something called organization unit that acts like your OUs. So it uses REST API and HTTP and HTTPS protocols and includes several services. And so such services as application integration and the rest of them. Now, like I said, we are going to examine our Entra ID as a directory service for cloud app. And we can see that cloud services such as Office 365, Dynamics 365, and Intune requires a directory. So you cannot have a Microsoft 365 tenant or a Dynamics 365 tenant without the Active Directory. Immediately you try to create a tenant, an Active Directory is created for you in the background for you to that entity. So then try and
Hello,
have
Onoriode. I think um he got disconnected again. Oh,
hello, can you
okay.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Can you hear
you.
me?
I can hear you now. I'll suggest if you can maybe turn off your video so as to
Okay,
conserve the
okay.
bandwidth, so we can just see the screen.
All right. Okay, let me just do that. All right.
Okay.
So sorry about that. So you can also enable what is called SSO, which is single sign-on, which allows you to sign into one point and you have access to every other point. For instance, you sign into your Windows PC, then you don't have to sign into every other cloud services. You just have to click on those cloud services and you have access to those cloud services. You can also create custom apps or add custom app to your Azure Active Directory. Comparing the Microsoft Entra ID Plan 1 and Plan 2, the only difference between the Plan 1 and the Plan 2 is that with the Plan 2, you have what is called identity protection and privileged identity management. I'm trying to run through this because I need to get into the source of our discussion. And I just need to run through this. Okay, so we can also manage domain services on Azure, like adding your domains and the rest of them. We can also integrate Azure AD with or we can provide support for directory aware applications. For instance, applications that you have been signing into from your using your IAD credential, you can also manage such application using your Entra ID. Okay, so managing Azure Active Directory identity. So this is where we now come to talk about the type of identities that we have in Azure Entra ID. We can examine RBAC and user roles in Azure AD or Entra ID. We can create and manage user. We can create and manage group. We can create and manage we can even manage devices on Entra ID. Okay, so for RBAC, which I talked about earlier, we have some roles that comes with our Entra ID, which is the roles like your global administrator, which have the overall roles on your tenant. And then we have other limited role like the Exchange administrator, SharePoint administrator, Teams administrator, and the rest of them. Your user mostly do not have a role. They come without a role and cannot do any privilege task on Entra. So we can members if they use on Entra ID, them member or as guest. So as guests, these are external users that are being added to your organization to be able to access resources in your organization. There are two ways you can create and manage users on Entra ID, which is creating them directly from the Entra ID portal, or you can create them on-premise and sync them up to your Entra ID, which is by leveraging the tool called Entra ID Connect or your cloud sync service. So you can create different users on Entra ID, which is the security group, the mail enabled security group, the distribution group, and your Office 365 group. Security group does not have a mailbox, but you can assign email to it. You can assign email to it. Can you hear me now? Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes. Well, I
Yeah.
think you were breaking for
I broke off from
about
for some seconds.
30 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to switch between two network, and I don't know why the two are not responding fine. So I was talking about the types of group that you have on Entra ID, which is a security group that doesn't have a mailbox. You can assign users or devices to a security group and give permissions to those users or devices to carry out any task on your organization. It can be assigning the global admin role to those that security group, and everybody inside the group will be able to carry out the task of a global admin. There's a mail enabled security group that is email enabled, meaning that when you create it, it works the same way as a security group, but you can actually send email to that group. You have the distribution group that sends email out, but does not have ability to retain those email. So whenever you send an email to a distribution group, it to the recipient without actually getting to without having a place to retain that email. Office 365 group have a mailbox, meaning that when you send the mail to it, it keeps a copy of the mail and distribute the mail to the recipient. There are also two ways you can assign members to a group. You can assign them dynamically or statically. Dynamically means that you can set some form of criteria that users or devices will meet in order to be a member of that group. And when you set that criteria, devices that meet that criteria or users that meet that criteria will automatically become member of that group. For instance, if you say the group members should all be from the marketing department, it means that all the members in marketing department automatically becomes a member of that group. If, for instance, someone leaves that department and changes department to another department, the person leaves that group automatically. So you can also assign the membership manually by just adding the users manually. Okay, so you can also manage Entra ID objects using PowerShell. Some of us that are familiar with PowerShell, when you connect your MSO service and create your users and all that. Okay, so synchronizing objects from Azure Active Directory domain service to Azure AD, you can use your AD Connect to do that synchronization. So we are going to get to the demo, but I'm just trying to rush it up. Okay, so we're able to look at this information, exploring the enterprise desktop, exploring Windows editions, understand Microsoft Entra ID and Microsoft Entra identities. Okay, so I'll just summarize the rest of Entra ID so that we don't waste much time on it. So for the rest of it, when you enroll a device in Intune, that device comes to the devices part of your Entra ID. So I'm going to also show us all that. Let's jump straight to that. So let's talk about configuration manager. I mentioned earlier the old ways that organizations have been managing devices using the System Center Configuration Manager, which is called the SCCM server. And that server is joined to the local Active Directory. And from there, devices are onboarded and managed. Updates are pushed, applications are pushed, applications updates are also pushed. You can also categorize those devices into different groups in your organization and manage, deploy, and monitor those devices. In deploying devices to the SCCM, you can enable tracking of software called a client device on a client device. So there is a like an agent that will be on that device that monitors that device and picks information on that device. So if that device have not picked specific updates or is missing some patches, that agent or that client that will be on that device will report back to the configuration manager, and you'll be able to know that that device have not picked specific update or is missing some patches, and you'll be able to do that. So some of the things that you can do with System Center configuration is that you can do what is called cleanse push, like push anything to those devices, applications, updates, or anything. You can do a manual deployment, like deploying a system from afresh. You can even do OS deployment and Microsoft Intune in a situation or a scenario called co-management. Okay, so these are the client deployment option. I think I was running faster than the slide, which I have already explained. And these are the details of what I have explained. Okay, in managing the SCCM or the System Center Configuration Manager client, you can be able to monitor the client's online status. You can also monitor his activity. You can see who is the primary user of that particular device. You can also see the operating system build, and if you need to upgrade to a higher build, you can do that. You can also check on the device using the System Center Configuration Manager. Okay, so managing Microsoft Configuration Manager clients. Device appears in asset and compliance. For those of us that have been using the CCM, we can know that we can see our devices under asset and compliance, and we can monitor our devices from there. And they are called more like device collections. Okay, now to the source of why we are here, and to discuss about the user management with Microsoft Intune. And we are going to be looking at your existing Microsoft 365 tenant, your on-premise Active Directory, import existing users and group. Okay, so to manage users using Intune, you can use what is called your multi-factor authentication or conditional access. If, for instance, you have onboarded devices into Intune and your devices are already showing mobile, whether mobile devices or your computer, and you want to enforce that everybody that is accessing their devices should be compliant or be enrolled in Intune, you can set what is called conditional access policy to ensure that these users, anytime they need to access their devices, they are there's a check to confirm that these devices are either Entra ID registered or hybrid Entra ID registered, or that the device is compliant on Intune. So those are the checks that a conditional access policy will do for you. And if that device does not meet that criteria, it means that that device will not be able to access company resources. Take a situation where the organization have a policy that everybody must use the office laptop, and someone comes in with his own personal laptop to gain access to company's data. Because of such policy, that person will be denied from accessing the company data. And also a situation where you have set a policy that any device that have not been checked in by Intune for the past 30 days should be retired, and the person brings such device. For instance, people that keep their device and use their personal devices because they are more comfortable with it. If that device have not checked for a period of time set by a compliance policy, then when you try to access company resources, you will not be able to access it. So you can also use what is called Windows Hello to access your devices that are enrolled in Intune. You can configure it, Windows Hello for Business, where your users can use what is called like fingerprints or Face ID to be able to access their devices. They can also use PIN to access such devices. For device management with Intune, with the modern work pattern of work, devices owned by organization or personal devices needs to be managed differently. So if you look at the slide, divided it into managed by organization or personal devices. Now, it's possible that your organization decide to check SSs of people gaining access to company information, and the idea that people download company information and store it in their personal device and take it elsewhere. It's possible that the critical information that may harm the organization are being sold out outside, maybe to the press or to a competitor. So when you have devices that are owned by your organization, there is need for you or for your organization to look at managing those devices, configuring policies to manage them, to ensure that even when this device gets lost or stolen, whoever gets access to that device may have two intentions. One intention is to gain access to the data on that device. The second intention may be just to flash the device or reinstall the device and sell it to someone. There is a situation where the intention of that person is the first, where the person wants to gain access to that device. even if this device is locked, the person can just carry the hard drive and put it on another device as an external drive and gain access to those information. This is where managing company-owned device come, where you have to do device encryption and configure local admin password solutions and the rest of them to protect company data from being stolen or lost. Or a situation where someone's device get lost, you can easily wipe out that device so that by the time or at any time that device reports to the internet and reports to Intune, the whole device gets wiped. Now, for personal devices, you as an organization you cannot tell people what to do with their device, but you can manage your organization data on people's devices. So you will not have full control over these people's devices, like doing the remote wipe and the rest of them, but you can onboard those devices and manage just the applications on that device. So if somebody is using the mail app, is using the Outlook app and the rest of them, and he or she need to copy out sensitive information from his or her Outlook or Word or Excel or PowerPoint to another application, let's say for instance to WhatsApp or to any other unmanaged application, the person will not be able to. The person will not be able to do something like screenshots. It will not be able to, if you can set it that it cannot print, the person will not be able to print that document. He will be able to just consume that document, make his own modification, and forward it back to you. So that is where you can manage personally owned devices, whether it is on mobile devices or you are managing personally owned laptop, because there are scenarios that are there where maybe the CTO or a top management staff must use his own personal laptop or his own personal device and does not want any form of restriction. There are other people that have reservation when it comes to restricting their device completely, which is personal, not the company that owns it. Then you now do policies on those devices and restrict it. It does not count very well. That is why you can use Intune to manage personal devices to secure your organization data. Okay, so I'll leave the demo and the lab for the last. We can also do app deployments to Intune. You can deploy app to Android devices, you can deploy app to iOS devices, you can deploy app to Windows devices, and even to Mac OS devices. So there are different ways you can deploy app. You can deploy app from the Windows Store, the iOS Store, or the Android Store. But if your organization have developers within and they are also creating app for your organization, there's also an option for you to deploy such app to devices that need those applications. So it's very flexible, such that you can, it's not only store apps that you can deploy for to those devices. You can also deploy third-party applications or applications that have been created for your line of business so that you can leverage it. You can even deploy web apps. For instance, you are very familiar with your Google Drive and you keep on going to the web page to um, access your Google Drive on your PC. You can actually deploy it on your desktop, and anytime you click on that app or that web app, it takes you to Google Drive on your PC. So it makes it easier for you to be able to access such type of applications. Next is managing app in Intune. Now, after you have deployed applications to Intune, whether they are on fully managed device or personally owned device, you need to deploy or configure what is called app protection policies. App protection policies, I have explained it earlier, but what app protection policy does is that they help restrict access to organization data. If a user owns a personal device and is accessing the organization data, then you need app protection policies to protect your organization data from any form of data loss. Scenarios where data loss are really cost reputations to organization are like, let me use the Nigerian government, for example. Sometimes there are some sensitive information that comes out to the internet and everybody will be like, wow, oh, like the issue of operating four budgets that came out recently, or the thought of, let me say, the Senate were thinking about, they've not really said they are going to do it. They said they were thinking about buying a new private jet. And when it came out, it's a problem. Everybody starts, it's an uproar. So for an organization that have its own sensitive information that if your your computer sees or gets hand on, he or she might use it and gain better traction over your organization. Or could it be sensitive information that shouldn't have gone out and it went out and it lead to a litigation? So because you need to protect all this sensitive data, there's need to ensure that even when you allow users to use their personal devices to access organization data, there is need to protect those organization data from unauthorized use, unauthorized access, unauthorized sharing. Loss of data can come from intentionally sharing sensitive data or unintentionally sharing sensitive data. But most of the time, it comes from intentionally sharing sensitive data. For instance, a disgruntled staff that wants to leave an organization or is fired, the last minute he starts moving things to maybe his Google Drive, or he started sharing it with somebody and all those kind of things. So that is the need for app protection policy. And with that, you can protect your device, your data from unauthorized access. So this can be configured on your
Hello, Onoriode. I think you're muted.
Hello, we can't hear you again.
Yes, I think someone muted me when that voice came into the call. Sorry about that. All right. So I think I've overemphasized on the app protection policy, and let's move on. All right. So next, we are going to be looking at compliance and conditional access. Compliance in Intune is so beautiful that what it does is that it checks your devices and confirm that, oh, your device meets this criteria that you have set that the devices should meet before that device can access company data. So for instance, for Windows device, you can set it that, oh, this device must have BitLocker encryption. It must have its firewall turned on. It must have an antivirus. It must have it must have code integrity. If you are managing it in Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, it must have this level of threats on it. In Defender for for endpoint, there are different levels of threat: the high, the low, and the medium. So you can set it to say, okay, if is above medium, mark this device as non-compliant. So by the time you onboard those devices to Intune. What it does, it checks those devices. Oh, this device does not have antivirus. It marks it as non-compliant. Oh, this device have its firewall turned off. It marks it as non-compliant. So you as an admin will be able to know that, oh, this device is not compliant. But if you leave it like that, the beauty of it is that if you leave non-compliant devices like that, your users will keep on turning off things that they have access to. For instance, if they have maybe local admin privilege to turn off antivirus or to remove antivirus or to remove firewall or to remove um, other security features, they will keep turning it off. So that is where conditional access policy comes in. So what conditional access policy you can configure for a compliance policy is that, oh, if you see that this device is marked as non-compliant, do not give this device access to my organization data.
Hello, sir.
So, yes,
Hello.
someone talking to
Can
me?
you hear me? Yes, this is this.
Hello, is someone talking to me?
I think he wasn't talking
Okay,
to you us.
okay,
So please let
all right,
us remember to mute our mics so that we do not um pause the meeting. All right, you can continue.
uh,
Thank you.
all right. So now, when you set such conditional access policy that if this device is not marked as compliant, deny this person access to um the company resources, then you now see your users running to you. Oh, I cannot access my mail. Okay, what happened? It says that my device needs to be compliant. So you go to the Intune portal, you check. Oh, your device is not compliant. Let's check what is not compliant for. Did you turn off your firewall? The person start looking at you. Okay, your firewall needs to be turned on in order for you to access company portal or for you to access the company data. So you can see how beautiful it is, and it helps you to ensure that your device stays compliant for people to be able to access your company data. Now, this can also be extended to your Android devices, your iOS devices, your Mac devices, and the rest of them. For iOS devices, there's what they call, is it jailbreak? Jailbreaking. So jailbreaking is more like making your iOS, your Android phone to have extended or unlimited capability. To some people, that's what they believe. So when you jailbreak your device, you then have access to features or anything that the normal Apple manufacturer did not give to you. So many people jailbreak their device. You can set your compliance policy that if a device is jailbroken, mark this device as non-compliant. So by the time the owner comes and says, oh, I can't access this, oh, your device is jailbroken. We don't allow jailbroken devices because they are very exposed to some form of threats online. The person goes, mitigates it, and come back. For Android devices, is routing. I think is routing. When you root Android devices, just like you jailbreak um, iOS devices, it gives you some more capabilities on your Android devices. So if you set your compliance policy to mark such devices as non-compliant, they become non-compliant. And also, if USB debugging is turned on those devices, you can also configure your compliance policy to say, okay, if this device have USB debugging turned on, turn it off. What does USB debugging do? USB debugging is more like when you plug your USB to your computer, all you just have to do is just reads your files on your device, which is very risky. If that device is in a public place, for instance, and you are not paying attention, somebody can just quickly plug that device to a computer and get access to the contents of that device, which can lead to data loss for your organization also. So you can also configure that for Android devices to protect those devices from any form of threat. Okay, like I said, we are going to leave the demo for the last, and the demo we cut across deploying application policies, compliance policies, and access policies. Okay, so we are going to be talking about endpoint security. In your Intune company portal, Intune Admin Center, you are going to see what is called endpoint security. Your endpoint security ensures that you can deploy endpoint solutions to your devices. Your endpoint solution cuts across your antivirus, your disk encryption. I've talked about disk encryption, firewall, endpoint detection and response, which is your EDR for endpoint. You can also configure what is called attack surface reduction. Reductions is more like ensuring that any points from which your device can get, you reduce it. Is it about website that people visit, unauthorized website, unsanctioned website, on website that are suspicious? You can use attack surface reduction rule to restrict such website so that when you access them, they will not be able to access it. It can also be the use of USB drives. You can also restrict the access to USB drive, which reduces attack surface reduction. There are so many other things that you can do to reduce your attack surface. There is also what we call account protection. That is where the local admin password protection and other account protection features come in. With local admin password protection, you can actually ensure that your local admin password across your organization is being controlled by Intune, such that if, for instance, okay, let me give a scenario. There are times an admin feels lazy to actually go to a user and work with the user. So he or she will just send the um, admin password or the local password that they've been using to do anything to the user just to get through with the user's request. It happens a lot. And another scenario is if an admin leaves the organization, because your password has always been your organization at 123, or um, anything at 123, most organizations use. So that admin goes out of the organization, leaves the organization, and he still have those passwords with him. There is a recent story of where someone that left an organization grudgingly, he started doing some malicious acts on the organization servers, which cost the organization a lot of millions of dollars. So because we're avoiding all this, we don't want to ensure that when somebody leaves the organization, he still have, in fact, I would tell you one truth for sure. I know some of us would disagree with me. The admins when it comes to password security, the administrators are the laziest. They can do anything at 123 just to get by and move on with what they are doing. So why I'm saying this is that there was a time someone gave me a tab. Oh, this tab is locked to this organization. I just said, oh, is this okay? I just put the organization name at 123, and the device was open. So what I'm trying to say here is that we look at admin password solution. Your device's local admin are not stuck to one specific password. At every time they need to, there's need to use a local admin on any device, a new password can be generated. Even when you have used that password, you can set it to renew the password at every specific time. For instance, you can say, okay, let us change the password daily, such that tomorrow the person wants to do same task, he will not be able to use that old password. He will use another password. So that's the beauty of having a local admin password solution, where people don't just have access because they need it, but they have to request this access, and you are aware that these people are using this access. access. Okay, so it can also check device compliance, and you can also configure condition access policies using this same endpoint security. So from here also, you can also onboard your devices to your Microsoft Defender for endpoints using your Intune connector. So, oh, I have more than 1,000 devices already in Intune, and I need to configure Microsoft Defender for endpoint. How do I start onboarding all these devices? There are different ways you can onboard devices to Microsoft Defender for endpoint. You can use a local script which can work for up to 10 devices. You can use a GPU, and you can also onboard using Intune. So if you already have your devices in Intune, what's the need going to pass through all those stress? You can just enable your Intune connector and do your configuration on Intune on the EDRO endpoint detection and response. Then your devices start moving to Microsoft Defender for endpoint. So you can then be managing it in Intune and manage your security also on Microsoft Defender for endpoint. Okay, so I've talked about sometimes when I've talked, I'll be laughing. Sorry about that. So I've talked about how we can onboard devices to Microsoft Defender for endpoint, which is these 4 steps that you can see here. Okay, let's talk about one more thing in Intune: configuration profiles. With configuration profiles, you can create so many policies in Intune. And the beauty about configuration profile, you can liken it to your GPU when it comes to your Windows devices. So just like you have group policies in Windows, policies in Intune, but they are configuration profiles. So somebody might be having at the top of his head is, if I have AD on premise and I have Intune managing my devices also, and I have a policy in Intune that is the same with the one in my AD, what will happen? Okay, so what will happen is that your group policy takes precedence over any policy that clashes with Intune policy. But there's a way you can configure that Intune policy will take precedence over that. So that answers that question in case somebody have it at the back of his or her head. So you can even extend this configuration profile when it comes to your Windows devices to get exactly the policies that you can have in your Windows 10 devices or Windows 10 or Windows 11 devices by importing your Windows 10 or Windows 11 ADMS file into Intune. So all those configurations on your GPU on premise, Intune can manage them for you using configuration profiles. You can also do configuration profiles on mobile devices, but their own configuration profiles differ from Windows. But the focus is on Windows configuration profiles. Okay, so we are also going to look at how to configure on. Please don't expect that I'm going to start deploying all these things from the beginning, because Intune policies take a while to actually come up. But I'm going to show you how they are being done. So we are also going to look at how you can deploy wallpaper. Regarding wallpaper and desktop background, the new update from Microsoft, I don't know if that changed, but recently when I was doing this, you can only deploy wallpaper or lock screen to Windows Enterprise devices. And for you to be able to use Pro, you may have to use a script to do that. That is the status for now. to deploy it to Windows enterprise devices. So by the time you have a mix match of Windows Pro and Windows enterprise devices in your environment, and you are trying to push a wallpaper and you see that the Windows Pro is not getting it, then you should know that that you could not deploy a wallpaper. Okay. Now, Intune have a page where you can see reports on all your devices. And this is the page you have. When you click on reports, you can check device compliance, device configuration status, and all this status you can see here. You can monitor all of them. Okay, so one last thing is that you can also monitor or create what is called update rings for Windows 10 and later devices using Intune. So you can use it to run some updates on your Windows devices. And then you can also use it for feature and quality updates. Then one thing about updates is that if you configure updates for all your devices in your organization, let's say for instance, you have 500 Windows devices and you configure update, if all those devices are pulling update at the same time, it will affect your company data bandwidth. It will make things slow in your organization and all that. So to configure update, you need to ensure that you configure what is called delivery optimization. When you configure delivery optimization, with delivery optimization, you can configure that if a device sees a particular update that it is looking for within the network, it can go to that particular device, pick the update and update itself. So in that case, you don't have all the devices going to the internet, going to look for update. You can set the data utilization to a percentage. For instance, do not take more than 30% of my bandwidth. But if you see any information or any update on any other device, you can just pick it from that device and update yourself. So that's another beauty with Intune. It does not affect your bandwidth whenever it's picking updates for your devices. So this is where I'm going to wrap it up when it comes to Intune. I don't know, maybe I will have to run through the demo. After I've run through the demo, then I'll give chance for question. Don't know if I've overshoot our time. Okay, there's still time. A lot of time. All right. Before I go to the demo, let me entertain like some questions. Then I can then go to the demo. How about that? Maybe 2 questions so that we won't over ask question. Any question from anyone?
We have question in the chat. Did can you take them, please?
Oh, yeah, Deji, please help.
All right. Okay, let me just go through. Okay, someone is asking, does the update works even when the device is not connected to enterprise network, maybe on your personal network? So I guess this person wants to know if you're connected to your personal network and you've pushed an update.
Yes, it will work. It will work on your personal network. So one thing about Intune is that you don't have to even be on your corporate network to pick any policies or updates. So that's where it differs from your SCCM or your System Center Configuration Manager. For your System Center Configuration Manager, you must go to your office, plug into your network, and pick whatever that is being pushed from that. But with Intune, you can be anywhere. So long as you have a network, you get what you'll be getting. I hope that answers the question.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I think that's one of the benefits of cloud, unlike on-premises environments. Because it's cloud, I mean, you can be connected from anywhere in the world. Okay. All right. Another person is asking, does it work when working offline? I think, okay. Does it work when working offline with your system? I mean, Intune.
Okay. Okay. I will answer this. Okay, this is tricky. Let me try to answer it. Yes or no. I will tell you why.
All right, break
There are
it
some
down for us.
policies. Yes. When it comes to online, it's possible that it's speaking policies, or there are some policies that are online based. Do you understand me? For instance, your attack surface reduction rules that protect you from that protects you accessing maybe websites that are malicious or anything. Or there are some other policies that are online based. You understand? For instance, if I decide to reset a device or retire a device and the device is not online, the device cannot pick that request. It has to be online to pick that request. Now, when it comes to the offline mode, I have set something like a USB restriction policy, or I have set a desktop wallpaper, or I've set something like device encryption. Now, for these three things I've mentioned, there are more, but I'm just giving an example. Whether you're online or you're offline, they are working. If you're offline, you go and put your USB stick and you are supposed and your organization is denying access to USB stick, it will not work. Because such policy have already made changes to some registry keys that are on your devices. So even when you go and plug it, it will still deny you from accessing those USB stick. Even if you are offline, your wallpaper or desktop background will still be showing. Even if you are offline, your device is still encrypted. I don't know if I have answered that question. So that's why I say I will answer it both online and offline.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I was one who asked the question. So, when you were discussing about the device configuration enabler for the Intune, when you talk about the features
Yes.
like Defender, so like a situation where you are using it to manage your security, I mean your system based on your Defender, right? So like a situation whereby you are working offline. So how does it work? That was the main question. So like since it helps to manage your Defender, I mean in terms of configuration and other set of management. Yeah, that was my question.
Okay. So if you configure policies in Tune for your maybe Defender configuration, when the device is online, it picks that policy. But it depends on what policy that has been configured for that to work. Okay, I don't know if you've experienced a situation or a scenario where you put maybe a website on your browser and you see that Defender red page that comes to you and says site is malicious, you should not access it or you should not go to that website. Now, if your device is offline and you put that same website, you will not see that page because your device cannot report to the internet to check from Defender that, oh, this is a malicious site. So that is for it working online. But there will also be some Defender policies that maybe you have configured in Intune that even if your device is offline, they will be triggered. I've mentioned the attack surface reduction rule that relates to maybe USB access to devices. Whether your device is offline or online, you cannot plug a USB. If you plug a USB, it will be denied. If it is a rule that says, okay, do not write, but you can read, You can read from the USB, but you cannot maybe copy in and out of that USB. So I don't know if that helps, or someone else can help me if it's not clear.
Yeah, thank you. You answered.
All right. All right. Okay. I promise to take 2 questions. Is there more? So that I can just go through the demo.
So
I think I don't know.
can I go ahead?
Wait, hold on. Onoriode, let's jump into the demo. Then after the demo, we can continue with the question and answer. So there'll be floor.
Okay.
Floor will be open.
All right. So please just take
Okay.
note of your questions, and then I will just run through the demo if that's fine. That's fine. All right. So I'll stop sharing and share my Intune portal. Wow. I'm just seeing the hands up. I'm in today. All right. Is the this. All right. So I'll share the screen. All right. So this is my, I'm trying to minimize this. Teams always block. Teams always block things it should not block. Ah, it's up again. All right, I'll manage. All right, so this is really usually frustrating dealing with this. Okay. All right, I'll start with my admin portal. So this is my admin portal, and normally if you click on show all, yeah, you see other admin centers where you see your entry ID portal, your endpoint manager portal. So if I go to the entry ID portal, I'm going to see this. So this is the home page of my entry ID portal where you can manage users, devices, and groups. And your users are here. All users, like I said, you can create 2 type of user, a normal user and a guest user. And when you try to create, you have the option to create a new user and an external user, which is a guest user. So you can also manage group, where we mention the different types of groups that we have. The security group, the mail enabled security group, Office 365 group, and distribution list or group. So I have security and M365 here. But when you go to the Office 365 admin portal, you are going to see other types of group. And the membership type I talked about, where you assign dynamic user based on some criteria you set for those users to become members, or you can do a dynamic device. So you can set a criteria for those type of devices, for instance, Windows device, and all Windows device will be member of that group. I also talked about your devices. This is where all your devices that you have onboarded will appear. So I'll talk about 3 types of device based on their joint type. There is what you call the Microsoft Entra registered device. There's what you call the Microsoft Entra joined device. And there's what you call the Microsoft Entra hybrid joined device. The difference between these 3 devices is that this device, whenever you sign into a personal device, for instance, you want to access your mail, or you want to access a file on your personal laptop, and it tells you to sign into the Office apps, you see a point where it tells you if you should manage this device. You either select no or yes. So when you select yes, your device will appear here as a Microsoft Entra registered device. This device I'm on currently is an Android device. So Android device, iOS device can fall into that devices with Windows device. So this device I have here is actually a Microsoft Entra ID registered device, but the join type I've not shown yet because it's not quite long. I set up this. It's today, 29. I set up all this. Now, next type of device is the Microsoft Entra joined. The Microsoft Entra joined device, let me see if I can show you how a device is Entra joined. When you go to your device, let me see if I can stop sharing this. Too many windows. All right. So when you go to your settings here and you come to accounts, you come to access work or school, for you to Entra join your device, just like you have your device joined to Active Directory. So for you to join your device to Microsoft Entra ID, you click on Connect. For a Windows Pro device and a Windows Enterprise device, someone saying something?
I know that we can't see your screen in case you're sharing.
Oh, I thought I'm sharing the full screen. So sorry about that. So sorry, so sorry. So sorry. Okay, think you get it now. Let me know if you can see it now.
Yes, you can see it.
Oh, great, great. All right. So for a Windows Pro and Windows Enterprise device, when you click on Connect here under Accounts, you go to Access Work or School Accounts, you click on Connect. For a Windows Pro and Enterprise device, you will see these two options at the bottom. The first option is to join your device to Microsoft Entra ID. That means that that account that you used to sign into your mail, your Outlook, and the rest of them, you can use it to sign into your device after you are joined to Microsoft Entra ID. You have the option to join to your local Active Directory. So this part I have showed you, Microsoft Entra joined, was joining from, oh, this thing has disappeared again. Using this to join. That is it. Now, if you have your device joined to your local Active Directory, that is when you have this option, which is Microsoft Entra Hybrid Join. How do you now join your device, make your device Microsoft Entra Hybrid Join whenever you have already joined your device to your local Active Directory? So instead of you going to all the devices and joining them using the Microsoft Entra IG and joining them, in fact, after you have joined to your local AD, you will not see this option. This join to Microsoft Entra. You won't see these options when you have joined to your local AD. So the way you are going to then join your device to make it Microsoft Entra ID join is to use what is called a GPO, Group Policy Object, on your AD, which you are going to configure and configure a service connection point. Then you can then sync that GPO and ensure that your devices are within the sync scope to be synced to Microsoft 365. What I mean by sync scope is like you have your users OU where you sync your users to Microsoft 365. You can also select your devices OU to sync to Microsoft 365. So by the time you set that and run your sync on your AD and also run your GPO policy to force your GPO policy, you start seeing your devices change their status to this Microsoft Entra Hybrid Join. It takes time for a large organization. And the time it takes is, some people are working from home. They've not brought their system to the office to pick the policy. And then some devices will pick the policy, but they will be stuck in a state called pending. So I don't know if I have anyone pending here. No, they will be stuck in a pending state for some time, and after some time, they become Microsoft Entra ID join. Now, so this device that is Entra ID registered, which we have not seen the status yet, but is going to show up. For you to join this device to Entra ID, you can just sign into the device, like I said earlier, and you'll be able to. But now we want to join it to, when we join this device to Intune, where are you? Okay, if we join this, to join this device here, we have to go and join it to Intune by doing this. So I'm talking about a scenario where somebody brings his own personal system to the office, or where an organization have AD on premise, but they are not syncing it to Microsoft 365. So yes, they are signing in using AD, but they are not running hybrid. So what you do in that case, you see the option to enroll only in device management. So when you configure this, you will then be able to have that device report in Intune. Now I'll show you something now. For those of us that we want to do a demo, I want to try to do that for this device. I have forgotten my TK. Okay. John at replab.tk. So if I click on next, I'm enrolling only in device management. Look at this message that comes up now. We couldn't auto discover a management endpoint matching this username. Some of us, when we are trying to onboard device and enrolling it only in device management, we get this error, but we don't know why. The reason why you get this error is that you have not verified these records with your DNS service provider. Let me show you that. Go to settings, domains. Come up. Okay. So for instance, I have, let me take this one. Don't know if it's still active. If I have this domain that is coming up. Taking time. Let me choose another one. Okay, let me try this. Let me do start setup. That will help. No, let me go to. This is why I was saying I will not do any configuration because of all these delays. But let it come up our way. Let me refresh. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that trust associates. There's a record called DNS records here. Okay, it's coming up. Okay, there's a record that is called basic mobility and security. So these two CNAME record, if you have not verified them with your DNS service provider, that is when you'll be getting that error. Otherwise, for you to go past that error, you have to come to the Intune company portal, or you can come to your devices and you come to device, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, let me go to the Intune. So you can come to the Intune company portal. You come to enrollment. automatic enrollment under Windows you have here. Okay, so you copy this URL. This is what you will now copy and paste in that page. I think it has disappeared. So that is what you copy and paste in that page that came up, so that you can go past it. Otherwise, for you to avoid that error, you just have to do the verification of those records. All right, so let's jump to Intune. This is the home page of Intune. So you can see a summary of my environment. I have 2 devices not in compliance. I talked about compliance policy, how it checks your devices and tells that, oh, this thing is missing, so this device is not compliant or compliant. So I can see my configuration profiles that have error. Configuration profile, like I said, they are used to set some basic configuration on your devices. So if we go to the dashboard now, we are going to see a summary of everything on my own Intune page. I can see device enrollment is okay, no failure. I can see device compliance too. I can see the number of Windows devices that have been onboarded. I can see the number of Android devices that have been onboarded. And I can see that 2 of the Windows devices are not compliant. So if I go to devices now, here I'm going to see my Windows device, my iOS devices, my Android devices. You can see them on the right, and you can see I have 2 Windows devices. I have no iOS or iPad, no Mac OS, but I have Android device. So if I come to these Windows devices, I'm going to see the list of my devices. I have 2 devices here that are onboarded to Intune. If you look at these 2 devices, one is a personal device, one is a corporate device. The difference between the enrollment I've told us already. The personal device was the one I just went to enroll in MDM only. That means it's the personal device. But the one that I said that I joined to Entra ID, this is the device. For the group policy I created to onboard the devices that are joined to my Azure AD, is yet to take effect. So I can't really see those devices here yet. So if I come to this desktop device, I can now check to see why this device is not compliant. So this is the device. I come to device compliance, and I can see under the policy that I created, there are 2 policies. One comes with Intune, and the other one is the one I created. So if I come to my policy, I'm going to see here why this device is not compliant. So let's check to see why. Okay, so you see firewall is compliant, anti-spyware compliant, antivirus compliant, till I got to where? TPM. This my device is actually a an Azure device. So I didn't really check whether it's generation 1 or 2, but it should be this device. So TPM compliance is not there, but my compliance policies state that this device must have TPM enabled before it can be marked as compliant. So I have to, as an admin, reach out to this user. Oh, we need to enable TPM on your device. That is when the device will become compliant. So that is for device compliance. So for you to configure device compliance for Windows device, you can just click on your Windows. It will take you to the Windows dashboard, and from there you can see compliance. So you can create this policy. You can see the policy I have created. For you to create it is not hard, can just select the platform, Windows 10 and later, you create and you see all those things that it needs to be checked, like TPM, antivirus, and the rest of the, let me call this test. Click on next. So I can see device health, BitLocker, should it have BitLocker for it to be compliant? Should it have secure boot for it to be compliant? Should we have code integrity and blah, blah, blah. A lot of them are there. So you can see the minimum OS. If, for instance, I set the minimum OS as Windows 10 and maybe someone brings in Windows 8.1 or Windows 8 or Windows 7, that device will be marked as non-compliant. So that's for compliance policy. For Android or macOS, you also have compliance policy, which should state what an Android device should come with before it can access your company data. So this is my Android compliance policy. It has been picked by one of my device and the device is compliant. If I go to that device, Android, and select the device and select compliance policies, device compliance. So I'm going to see the list of configuration I also made on the Android devices. I said, as okay, no, not this. I think is this one, Android compliance policy. So these are the list of things. I gave it a maximum OS, minimum OS, required password to unlock, and all that. So you can see USB debugging. If it's on my device, it will be marked as non-compliant. If my device is rooted, it will be marked as non-compliant. So my device passed all the checks. Okay, so from compliance policy, let's go to Windows configuration policy. So configuration policy or configuration profile, like I said, they are more like your group policy, your GPOs that you create on Active Directory on premise. And this my USB restriction, you can see my wallpaper, you can see my updates optimization to ensure that my devices picks updates. Then I can import the ADMX as I've said for maybe Windows 10 or Windows 11 and use those policy or configuration to push policies to my device. Then I'm trying to save time. Sorry about this. So next we should be talking about is applications. Now you can push applications to your devices from it. If you look at here, you can push it based on the platform. For Windows devices, if I'm to, you can see the list of applications that I have that I push to my devices, the Google Drive, Web Link, Intune Company Portal, and the rest of them. So if I'm to add an application, I have different options on how to add my application. I can install from the Microsoft Store app, the new Microsoft Store app. Then I can install Microsoft 365 app. The beauty about this is that you can select the channel, whether it's monthly, semi-annual, or current channel when you are pushing this Microsoft 365 app to your devices. Then you can deploy Microsoft Edge to older versions of Windows and Microsoft Edge version 77 and later to Windows 10 and later, sorry. This is the web link I told you about. If you are visiting maybe OneDrive or phone and you just want to have it on your desktop as maybe one of the app, you can just deploy this. Then the line of business application are applications that your developers have developed and you can just push them to Intune. This type of application are using what is called .msi. The extension is .msi. So you can just upload it and push it to your devices. For Win32, these are applications that carry multiple files and the major application among them is the .exe file. So before you can deploy this kind of application, you have to convert it to what is called Intune Win file. So when you convert it to Intune Wi-Fi, you upload the application and you push it. You do some other configuration and you push it to the devices. So those are the different applications you can upload. So for Android and iOS, it's almost the same thing. You can push applications. And I also talked about application protection policy, where you can set restrictions to your application. For instance, looking at this Android policy, if we come to see the details of the policy, you are going to see what I have configured. I say send org data to other app, only policy managed app, meaning that any app that is outside my policy managed app, I cannot send anything to it. For instance, I cannot send to WhatsApp, I cannot send to OneNote and the rest of them that are not within the list of my policy managed app. Save copies of org data. You cannot save it to your device. Allow user to save copy to selected services, only OneDrive and SharePoint. And I have the one for screenshots, restrict copy and paste. So with this, between other app, so this one is also restricted. Only policy manager app can copy and paste between themselves. Screen capture and Google Assistance, I disabled it, and all those are it. So if somebody is accessing company information using this device that is deployed here, he will not be able to do that. So let me see if I have missed any parts. Okay. So for endpoint security, like I said, you can use it to deploy endpoint solutions, and you can also integrate it to your Microsoft Defender for endpoint. So instead of me deploying Microsoft Defender for endpoint on all my devices, I can just do it right from Intune, and I'll be able to onboard my devices by clicking on. You can see I have one onboarded devices, and then we have one device that's not onboarded. That is what I have currently. So you can configure disk encryption, ensure that your devices are encrypted. You can configure attack surface reduction to ensure that where your attacks of reducing your attack surface to ensure that attack doesn't come in. Then let me go to account protection, where you see things like the local admin password solution and the rest of them if you want to configure them. So you see the local admin password solution, local user group membership, and account protection. Conditional access, after you have done all your configuration, you can use conditional access to make restrictions on devices. And for instance, all these devices that are not compliant on my Windows, I can set a conditional access policy that says if this device is non-compliant, you should not allow it to access company information, and the user have to run to the admin and say, oh, I can't access, oh, your device is not compliant because it does not meet this criteria. Then we mitigate that, then you have access to it again. Let me wrap it up here because I see that there are a couple of questions, and the question will help us to even talk about some other things that I may have skipped. Intune is very beautiful, it's very easy, it's very, in fact, when I started learning it, history, it was giving me headache initially, but when I came to realize how easy it is, that it's all about compliance, configuration policies, and your restrictions, that is just Intune. It became easier for me. So I'll leave the room for question, and then anyone that have questions can just ask, and I will answer the best I can.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Onoriode, for the wonderful session. You know, you had to take us back right from the basics, like starting with Microsoft 365 groups, and then Microsoft Entra, before we now delve into Microsoft Intune as a whole. So thank you so much for that wonderful session. All right, so we're just going to take the questions. I see a couple of hands raised. So the first is Idris. So I want us to let's keep the questions straightforward so that we can more people are going to ask questions so that we can you know. Uh, Onoriode, do you want to take the questions all together and then you answer? We just taking one after
Okay,
another.
let's just take them by their numbers. You can just start with the first person.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Idris, you can go on.
Right, Deji. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. All right, I don't know. I want you to clear something. Is it that this issue is peculiar to all Microsoft Intune device? Because in our organization, each time we have a faulty hardware, maybe one of the hardware is being replaced, the challenge is that we have to re-enroll the device back to Intune. And sometimes it's been so
Ah,
hard to troubleshoot
okay,
issues
okay.
on Intune device. In fact, we have our Dell engineers. Each time,
Mm-hmm,
maybe like a microphone is faulty. In fact, they will
mm-hmm,
replace the motherboard, replace
mm,
everything, but still yet
good.
the microphone is still not working. But on a normal ground, when we are not on Intune, in fact, it really helps the guys to really troubleshoot what the issue. We have like a customer for the past 3 weeks now. We've been on this system. They change the motherboard, they change all the devices, all everything on there, but still yet, but the system is still not working perfectly. So I don't know, maybe it's peculiar to Intune. I don't know. So I don't. I want you to clear something on that. I mean, and
Okay,
the
okay.
second one, I remember when Intune was coming in, they said, we don't have issue of like updating anything manually again, bro. For most of all these updates, sometimes we've been doing that manually because they will send us the list of the system that they are not picking updates. You have to be getting them manually to install it. So I was just trying to clear something. That's why I want to raise. Thank you.
All right, okay, thank you very much. And so there was a time, I'll give you a little story of me having a system that was enrolled to Intune, and the system was very slow. And I was very skeptical that, oh, what if I move the hard drive to another system? What will happen? When I did the detailed research, I found out that if I have to move it to another system, the device ID, the information about the device hardware is no longer the same with what was enrolled to Intune. So talking about changing of motherboard or maybe moving a drive to another PC, you will have to re-enroll that device to Intune. Then, when it comes to skepticism, when it comes to Intune, many people are very, 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 very skeptical with how it works. Maybe because it's still being developed, because Intune is still being developed. Currently, is not used for managing servers, but I believe in the future there should be an option to manage servers with Intune. Right now, you just have the Android, Windows, iOS, Mac, and then Linux. So, what I'm saying in essence is that sometimes when a change comes, anything that happens, that change takes the blame is common in many, many environments. If I'm to suggest you make maybe an observation, maybe you can ask yourself, have you been having issues with devices prior to Intune? Or somehow when Intune comes in, you started having these issues with Intune or maybe with these devices. Now, talking about the second question, I think you were talking about updates. Yes, updates. So it also depends on how update is configured. Like I said when I was talking, I said that the updates, you don't have to allow all devices to start going into the internet to pick updates. Rather, you can configure what is called delivery optimization, which ensures that all devices don't have to go to the internet to start picking updates. Now, I'm not sure how your own updates or configuration is done, but I think maybe people need to review internally how the updates is done. Because I have done this, I have configured updates on organizations' devices, and most organizations, apart from that initial skepticism, oh, you people will be seeing the content of my phone, you people will be seeing what I'm doing, you people will be spying on me, of which we we give clarification on that, especially when it comes to mobile devices and installing the Intune company portal. People believe that the thing will be spying them. So when we clear that, I don't get any complaint that has to do with this. Maybe people want to review mix matching OEMs. I'm not trying to discredit Dell now, but maybe you may want to review mismatching OEMs to see if you are having these issues with other OEMs, or it's only Dell you are having the issue with. I don't want to buttress too much on the question, but I think we can discuss later if you are not satisfied. Sorry about the short answer, please. But if it
Oh,
helps, that's fine. Yes, go ahead, please.
oh, all right. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so Martins, you can ask your question. Martins, you can
Uh,
unmute if you're speaking.
oh, sorry. It was just part of the discussion when he was trying to access what's it called? Was trying to maybe register his what's called domain service, and the system was saying that I could not register. I was not asking that could it be an endpoint security issue, because endpoint security, just as you explained, you can restrict some domains, you can restrict some other things. So that was why I was asking that could a situation like that arise when or when, let's say, you registered your what's it called? You registered your DNS, I mean your DNS record in your, because I believe I used what's it called? I used the Entra ID. I do that from the Entra ID portal, not from Intune. So I was not asking that. When you explain endpoint security, I'm just trying to frame my question better. That could it be that maybe after you have your DNS, and endpoint security could also limit you from using your domain to your DNS record. Yeah.
Is this the error you are referring to?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this error is very clear because when it comes to enrolling in MDM, your device using this that I have provided, since it's connected to the internet, will be able to auto discover. If you look at those records I showed, those are CNAME records. So it's supposed to auto discover that URL itself. But because those URL are not published to my DNS service provider, that's why I got this error. So, like I said, I have to go and copy that URL and paste it here in order for me to go next on this error. Now, talking about your firewall or your endpoint security blocking some of this configuration, yes, you can be using maybe a third-party endpoint security or a firewall. For you to configure Intune, there are some specific URLs you are supposed to allow on your firewall. So if you go to the M365 URL list, there's that their list, you see the one that pertains to endpoints that you can allow on your firewall, such that you have a very seamless registration. For instance, this is your firewall doing this. You will not see this error. You will see an error that may be different from this. I can't tell specific because different error might come up. So for instance, you already add the URL and you still get an error. Some people will ask me about one error. There's that one error that usually come. That one had to do with the device itself. So most times when you get that one error after you have done everything, that has to do with the device itself, or it can also have to do with your firewall configuration or your device and endpoint solution configuration that may be affecting that too. So that I hope that answers your own concern, please.
Oh, yes, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
thank you, Ario, Michael.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Yes. Good evening.
My question is about the links to the device management portal. The one you use for the demonstration says intune.microsoft.com. And I also know that if you go to the Microsoft's Entra ID Center on the admin part, if you click to show all the admin portals, if you click on endpoint security or endpoint management, I think, yeah, endpoint management, that one will also take you to endpoints.microsoft.com. My question is, are the two portals the same? Are they like just like aliases to each other, or they are different?
Good. So there's one thing about Microsoft. When they've seen a name for too long, they will be dancing about the name, like changing Azure Active Directory to Entra ID. And at a point, we've always known Intune to be Intune. But Microsoft came, was it last year or last 2 years? They said, let's change it to Endpoint Manager. So then you can go through endpoint.microsoft.com and you will get to the Intune portal. Now they came back again. Let's change it to Intune. So maybe they just want us to know that a change is happening. I don't know. So they now change it back to Intune, and that is where we are now. If I still click on it, it will take me to intune.microsoft.com. So for people that are maybe, let me use the word, they are still stuck with the old name or the old URL, they can still come to a new this and say endpoint. I don't know if it will still go .microsoft.com. Maybe it will redirect us to the Intune URL. Can you see? It changed back to Intune. Oh, I clicked the wrong account. Okay, it changed back to Intune, even when we click on endpoint.microsoft.com. So I don't know, your system is still showing you endpoint.microsoft.com till now. My system have updated, your own should be updated. Thank you.
Hi, Yunus. Let me add to that. Aria, so Microsoft basically has renamed the endpoint configuration manager back to Intune because initially there were a suite of products, about 6 of them, desktop analytics, a lot of products. So they had to bring everything back into Intune as one suite of products. So they changed it. So Microsoft is rolling out that change it across tenants. So maybe it hasn't gotten 0 tenants yet. It's the new name.
I actually don't use it or manage anyone right now. I just have little knowledge of it here and there, due to personal learning. So that's how I got to see the differences in the URLs. But like he said, Microsoft dance around too many things too frequently. And sometimes me particularly and some other people I know, sometimes it gets me frustrated and I'll be like, which one is this one again? We have not finished learning one. Microsoft is coming up with another confusion. So
Okay, let me address that. So that is why everyone needs to be versatile with change. Microsoft is an organization, and in order to keep up with the modern trend, in order to keep up with everything that is happening, because things are happening very fast.
As in too
There
fast.
needs, yes, they there's need for a change. If you are not learning maybe Copilot or AI now, you'll be shocked how the world will leave you behind. And you'll be like, but I'm an IT person. You go to an interview, they start asking you question on the modern things. You just be, maybe you open your mouth and be looking. So we have to be very fast with change. Okay, me, I only saw it as, oh, you were calling this thing Intune before. Now it's not endpoint. Now it's not Intune again. But my colleague here, have clarified why the change. But me, I saw it as, oh, why changing names? Because I maybe have not gotten that information that it got. So there's need to move fast with the train. People that were using paper, when they say, computer, you don't have to use paper, you can just have all the document on a computer. They say, the computer will blow. So organization that embrace computer on time, they find out that they were now more productive and making more profits. Why the ones that are struggling with paper, they were still there. When digital camera come, some of the camera producers that were using film, they say, what is this? What is this? What is this? They didn't embrace it. Those that embrace digital camera, they moved on and zoomed off. When Android came, Nokia was like, oh, we have one this thing, software called what's that? Their software, Symbian. We stick with our Symbian. Everybody zoomed off, zoom, and Nokia now is struggling in the market. So when we look at all this scenario, it gives us a second thought that no matter what, let's key into learning a new thing every day on the solutions. If not, things will leave us behind. Is there any other question? Or since it's past 6, we can.
Yeah, I think we
I
have
have
two
a
more
question.
people.
Oh, my hands
All right, Jennifer,
raised.
go ahead. Go on.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you so very much for the detailed explanation so far. The thing is, I've been having some issues with registering personally owned devices. It gives me an error like try again later. And it doesn't just happen when I try to register them. Also, when I try to use the company portal for personally owned devices, it gives me that same error. Error 00 something something, then it will say try again. And the more I keep on trying, like a loop, it just keeps on telling me try again, try again. So maybe I don't know what the issue is. Maybe I'm registering it wrongly. I don't know if you can recap on that. And secondly, my question is about the compliance. I saw you when you clicked on one of the compliance policies that you created. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And you were able to fish out the exact issue. When I tried doing that, I can't fish out the exact issue. It's just that I know why my device is not compliant because I broke it. I just took out the firewall and I know that was the reason, but I can't see it on the compliance rule. So I'm trying to find out, like, if you can recap how you got there for personally owned device and compliance issues. Thank you.
Okay, so let me start with that. So I'm sharing my screen once again. So for this Windows device, for instance, like I said, you see two compliance policies, the one I created and the one that came right from the box with Intune. So if I click on device compliance on this place, I'm going to see that it is compliant on the default compliance policy that came with Intune. And for the Windows 10 policy I created, I can see an error. So when I click on that one, which is my own policy I created, and scrolling through, I can now see that there's no TPM on this device. So for your own, you are not seeing anything that is showing error or
Yeah,
anything.
I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, it's just fun. But I will recheck. Thank you for recapping on this. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So for the devices they say gives errors, what type of this? Is it mobile device, Windows device, or what device?
It's a VMware. I'm using it to test like a device that's virtual.
Okay, so
And I think I
I
even
can't.
use my local device as well.
I still
Yeah,
got
so it
error.
gives that error. Yes, and via the company portal saying you can't try again. You know, that kind of
Unless
thing,
we
like
can
it's not
see
available.
we can see the error code. So one thing I always advise people is follow the error. Do you understand?
Yes, I
If you
did
follow
also.
the yeah, so
I did, but no ends. There was no
there
result.
should be an end. There will be an end.
I
Okay,
okay.
maybe that should be off this session. Let it not be that I'm the one
All
that
right.
took the time, please.
No problem. But how
All
did you
right.
register your own
You can
personally
share
owned
the
device?
error message if you don't mind,
Okay, maybe
Jennifer,
yeah, you can.
Okay, I'll share it. But
on the
how did
group
you
chat.
register your own personally or
This
your
is
own
my
personal device?
this is my personally owned device. This is it. Can you see it here? No.
Yeah.
This device I am on is my personal device. Now, for me to register it in Intune, I can just come to settings and click on account settings, and then come to work or school, and I come to enroll only in device management. So when I
Okay.
click on that, I put in my email. And click on next. So that's where it's asked for this MDMR URL, which I'm supposed to get from here. Where is my
Okay.
which I'm supposed to get under devices and go to enrollment, then automatic enrollment under Windows. Then I copy this third one. I copy. In order not to do this, I can verify those CNAMEs on my DNS, and I won't have to see that message that came up. I won't have to see this. It will just automatically go through.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so Benedict, I think that's the last question for today. Benedict, you can go on. Hello,
Very much.
Benedict.
Good evening. I'm kind of new
Okay, go on.
to the store, brand new.
I don't know if
I'll
it's from
scattered
my
across
end
the
is
country.
breaking.
Can you come again? I think
Can you
we
hear me?
lost you for. All right, we can hear you now.
Start
Hello,
afresh
can you hear me
because
now?
we lost you for some moments.
Yes, we can
Hello.
hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Oh, it's breaking.
You're breaking again. You're breaking
So I
again.
have like 200 devices in the store. Hear me now?
Yeah.
It keeps breaking, but
Maybe you
Hello.
can go ahead. Anybody that catches you, we explain what you're trying to say.
Can you type the question? Perhaps you should type the question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
In the chat box. I'm not sure if I'm heard.
I think you can just type the question. Okay. Oh. Hello, Benedict.
Okay. Let him drop the question in the chat. Maybe you can move on.
Yeah. So you
Questions
can
in the chat
drop
box,
your
please check.
question in the chat.
Thank you.
We're not seeing the question yet. Wow. Okay. Benedict, I guess we just have to, answer the question offline because we can't seem to hear you. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for taking out time to join. And thank you so much. A special thank you to Onoriode Eko, who is our speaker for today. We've really shared knowledge with us, and we've been able to catch up a lot of new things. I myself personally have been able to, learn one or two things. So, special thank you to you, and also to everyone that has joined. Thank you so much. So, on this note, we're going to be calling it a wrap for today's session. Next month, we're going to have another session, and then we're going to communicate the date to us on the group chat, on the WhatsApp chat. So if you're not on our WhatsApp chat, I dropped a link to the our various social media on the group chat. You can also connect with us from there. Once you connect with us, you just drop a post, and then we'll definitely add you to the WhatsApp if need be.
Sorry,
So,
someone is asking for demo link. I don't know what link.
was that? Let me see, please.
On
Can
the
we
chat.
get the demo link? The demo link.